What happens when the most unpredictable former president in American history sits down with one of television's sharpest interviewers? The Graham Norton Show has seen its fair share of awkward exchanges, celebrity feuds, and on-air chaos. But nothing could have prepared the audience for what unfolded when Donald Trump took a seat on that iconic red couch. This wasn't just another promotional interview. This was a masterclass in tension, ego, and the kind of television that makes you lean forward, unable to look away. Before we break down exactly what went down, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and let me know in the comments whose side you're on after hearing this story. Trust me, you're going to have opinions. The evening began innocently enough. Graham Norton, with his signature charm and that mischievous glint in his eye, welcomed Trump onto the stage. The crowd erupted, part applause, part uncertain murmurs. The energy was electric. Everyone in the room knew they were about to witness something extraordinary. Norton, a master of witty disarmament, was about to face off with a guest who never lets his guard down. Trump, the man who had stared down countless interviewers and come out either triumphant or defiant, was stepping into the domain of a host who specialized in making even the most media-trained guests slip. Graham began with an easy one. "So, Donald, lovely to have you here. You're arguably the most talked-about person on the planet. How does that feel?" Trump adjusted his tie, settling in. "Well, Graham, I'll tell you, it's tremendous. People love talking about me. I get ratings like nobody's ever seen. When I'm on TV, millions watch. Millions. Your show tonight. Probably the biggest audience you've ever had, the Bay." Crowd laughed, though it wasn't entirely clear if they were laughing with him or at him. Graham's polite smile didn't falter. "Yes, we do all right. But speaking of attention, you've had your share of controversial moments. Some might say you thrive on controversy." Trump leaned forward. "I don't thrive on controversy, Graham. I thrive on winning. I thrive on being right. Sometimes being right makes people uncomfortable. That's not my problem." "That's theirs." Norton swirled his wine glass, intrigued. "Interesting. So, when you said that thing about... Oh, what was it? Let me remember." He paused theatrically. "Ah, yes. When you suggested that certain countries were, how did you put it, not sending their best people. Were you being right or being controversial?" The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Trump's jaw tightened. "I was being honest, Graham. Something people in your business seem to have forgotten how to be. I say what everyone's thinking. That's why people love me." Norton smiled almost playfully. "Do they, though?" "Love you, I mean. Because I've seen some rather large crowds who seem to feel quite differently. In fact, when you visited London, there was that rather famous balloon, wasn't there?" Nervous laughter rippled through the audience. This was the moment everyone would later point to, the spark that lit the fire. Trump frowned. "That balloon was made by losers. Sad, pathetic people who have nothing better to do because they can't win elections. I won, they lost. And by the way, like the balloon was tiny. The media made it look huge, but it was small. Very small." Norton leaned back, amused. "Small, Donald?" "It was rather large, actually. Quite impressive in its own way. But let's move on, shall we? I'm curious about your relationship with the truth. You've been fact-checked more than perhaps any public figure in modern history. Does that bother you?" Trump's voice rose slightly. "Fact-checkers are fake news, Graham. They're biased. They have an agenda. When I say something, it's true. When they say I'm wrong, they're wrong. Simple as that. I have the best information. I know more than almost anyone about almost everything." Norton arched an eyebrow. "More than almost anyone about almost everything. That's quite a claim. So, you'd know more about British politics than someone who lives here?" "Absolutely," Trump said without hesitation. "I know your politicians. Some of them are friends, great people. Some not so much, but I understand what's happening here better than most British people." The laughter had stopped. The audience was silent, completely locked in. Norton smiled thinly. "Fascinating. And you'd know more about climate science than climate scientists?" Trump waved him off. "Climate change is a hoax created by China to hurt American manufacturing. I've said it before. Those scientists, paid to say what they say. I'm not. I think for myself." Norton leaned forward slightly. "You think climate change is a hoax?" Even though you've seen extreme weather, rising sea levels, even your own properties being affected? Trump's voice grew defensive. My properties are fine, beautiful, the best in the world. And I know what's a hoax and what isn't. I've been right about everything, Graham, everything. People doubted me when I said I'd run for president. I won. People doubted me when I said I'd build the wall. I built it. People doubt me now, Trump said, and I'm still winning. Norton took a slow sip of his wine, letting the silence linger just long enough to sting. You built the wall, he said lightly. I'm not sure that's entirely accurate, is it? I mean, portions were built, portions were renovated. But the full wall you promised never quite materialized, did it? That was the turning point. Trump's posture stiffened. The showman facade cracked. For the first time, he wasn't commanding the room. He was being challenged in it. That's fake news, Graham. Typical media lies. The wall was built. It's there. It's protecting America. You can't just come on your show and make things up. The irony of that statement wasn't lost on anyone. Norton's brow lifted slightly as he leaned forward, his tone calm but firm. Donald, I'm simply asking questions, based on publicly available facts. If you're uncomfortable with questions, perhaps this wasn't the right venue. Trump shot up from his seat, his face flushed crimson. I'm not uncomfortable with anything, Graham. I'm the most comfortable person you'll ever meet. What I am uncomfortable with is being ambushed on a show that's supposed to be fun and entertaining. This isn't journalism. This is a hit job. Norton remained seated, his composure unshaken, though there was a flicker of steel behind his eyes. He gestured toward the couch with his glass. Donald, please, and sit down. Nobody's ambushing you. I ask all my guests questions. Some are light, some are difficult. That's called conversation. You remember conversation, don't you? Trump stood his ground, glaring down at him. Conversation? You want to talk about conversation? Let me tell you what's interesting, Graham. I agreed to come on your little show, give you the ratings boost you desperately need. And this is how you treat me. With disrespect. With fake questions based on fake news. The audience had fallen utterly silent. This wasn't playful TV anymore. This was raw, unscripted confrontation. Norton placed his wine glass carefully on the table. His movements were calm, deliberate, surgical. Little show? Donald, the Graham Norton Show is one of the most watched talk shows in the world. We don't need you for ratings. You were invited because we thought it would be interesting to have an actual conversation. Clearly, I was mistaken about your willingness to have one. Trump jabbed a finger toward him, his voice rising. Don't you dare lecture me about conversation. I've spoken with world leaders, presidents, kings, people who matter. You sit here on your red couch getting celebrities drunk and asking silly questions about their movies. That's not conversation, Graham. That's entertainment for people who don't have anything better to do. Now Norton stood. Though smaller in stature, he somehow commanded more space. Calm, steady, immovable. Yes, he said evenly. It is entertainment. That's the point. But even entertainment has room for honesty and accountability. You came here knowing exactly what this show is. A mix of laughter, truth, and humanity. What's really upsetting you isn't that I'm asking questions, it's that I'm not fawning over you the way others do. Trump gave a harsh, humorless laugh. Fawning? I don't need anyone to fawn over me. My accomplishments speak for themselves. I've done more in 4 years than most people do in a lifetime. I've created jobs, rebuilt the economy, made America respected again. What have you done, Graham? Made people laugh? Congratulations. The disdain in his tone hung heavy in the air. Norton didn't flinch. His reply was soft, but it landed like ice. Yes, I have made people laugh. In a world full of anger, division, and men like you who thrive on chaos, laughter matters. It brings people together. It reminds us that we're all human. He paused, his voice steady but edged with quiet authority. And beyond that, I've created a space where real conversation can happen, where people can be open, honest, even vulnerable. You, however, Norton tilted his head slightly, don't seem capable of either. Trump's eyes narrowed. I'm more real than you'll ever be. Everything about me is real. My success, my businesses, my impact on history. You want to talk about being human? I connect with millions of real people, working people, not the elite snobs who watch your show and think they're sophisticated because they laugh at your jokes. Norton tilted his head slightly, his expression unreadable. Elite snobs? Donald, you were born into wealth. You've lived your entire life in a golden tower with your name on it, surrounded by luxury, excess, and power. And yet you have the audacity to lecture anyone about real people? You don't know what their lives are like. Trump stepped closer, his tone hardening, his presence almost predatory. I know exactly what their lives are like, because I fight for them every single day. I fight against people like you, the ones who look down on them, who mock them, who think they're stupid. Those people elected me because they knew I was on their side. They knew I understood them. What do you understand, Graham? How to ask vapid questions and laugh at your own jokes. Norton didn't flinch. In fact, he seemed calmer, almost as if Trump's anger had confirmed something he already knew. I understand that when someone becomes this defensive, this furious, over simple questions, it usually means they're hiding something. So tell me, Donald, what are you hiding? What are you so afraid of? That a conversation on a chat show threatens you this much? The words hit the air like a gauntlet being thrown. Trump opened his mouth, then shut it again. When he finally spoke, his voice was quieter, but sharper, colder. I'm not afraid of anything. I've faced things you couldn't even imagine. I've been investigated, attacked, lied about, and I'm still standing. Still fighting. Still winning. You think your little questions scare me? You think you can intimidate me with your smug British attitude and your wine glass? Norton lifted the glass, took a slow sip, and smiled faintly. I'm not trying to intimidate you, Donald. I'm treating you like I treat everyone else, with questions, curiosity, and a touch of skepticism when your words don't line up with reality. If that feels like intimidation, perhaps you should ask yourself why. Trump turned toward the audience, throwing his arms wide. You see this? This is what they do. They twist everything. They make you look like the bad guy for defending yourself. I came here in good faith, and I'm being attacked. This is what happens every single time. The media, the establishment, they can't handle the truth, so they attack the messenger. A cough broke the tension somewhere in the crowd. Norton glanced at the audience, then back at Trump. Donald, literally nobody is attacking you. I've asked you about things you've publicly said and publicly done. In response, you've insulted me, insulted the show, insulted the audience, and now you're playing the victim. Do you not see how absurd that is? Trump shook his head slowly, disbelief twisting into contempt. Absurd? I'll tell you what's absurd. What's absurd is having to sit here and be lectured by a talk show host about reality. You live in a bubble, Graham. A nice, comfortable bubble where nothing you say or do has real consequences. I live in the real world where decisions matter and actions have weight. You wouldn't last a day in my world. Norton's smile this time was genuine, almost warm. You're absolutely right. I wouldn't last a day in your world because your world sounds exhausting. It's constant conflict, constant drama, constant need for validation and attention. My world, this world, is about connection, laughter, finding common ground. And yes, sometimes it's about holding people accountable when they say things that aren't true. If that's too much for you, then perhaps you're right. Perhaps this wasn't the right venue. Trump grabbed his jacket from the back of the couch, his movements sharp, angry, final. You know what, Graham? You are right about one thing. This isn't the right venue. This is a waste of my time. I thought maybe we could have a real conversation, but you're just like all the rest. You've got your narrative, your agenda, and nothing I say will change that. So I'm done. I'm not going to sit here and be disrespected on national television. Norton's voice was calm, almost gentle now, the voice of a man who'd already won without raising it. Donald, the only person who's been disrespectful tonight is you. But if you want to leave, nobody's stopping you. The door is right there. Trump stared at him for a long, heavy moment. The studio was so quiet you could hear the cameras hum. Every eye was locked on him. He clutched his jacket tightly, his knuckles pale. He looked at the door, then at Norton, then at the audience searching for support that wasn't there, and then Norton spoke again, softly, almost like an afterthought, but with precision that cut through the air. You know, Donald, I've interviewed hundreds of people on this couch. Actors, musicians, politicians, activists. I've spoken with them all, Norton said evenly. People from every walk of life. Some have stumbled. Some have made terrible mistakes. But the ones I admire most are those who can admit it. who can sit here and have a real conversation without needing to be right about everything. That takes strength, real strength, not the kind you perform, but the kind that comes from being secure enough to be questioned. Trump's jaw tightened. Don't lecture me about strength. You don't have a clue what that means. Strength is standing up to an entire system that wants to destroy you. It's fighting back when everyone tells you to quit. It's refusing to bend, refusing to apologize, refusing to give them what they want. Norton nodded slowly. But what if what they want is just honesty? What if people aren't trying to destroy you, Donald? What if they're simply exhausted? Exhausted by everything having to be a war? What if, just once, you could sit down, have a glass of wine, and talk like a normal person without turning it into combat? Trump let out a hard, humorless laugh. A normal person? Graham, I'm not a normal person. I've never been normal. Normal people don't become president. Normal people don't build empires. Normal people don't change the world. And yeah, that means I don't play nice when I'm being attacked. Norton placed his glass down with a soft click. But that's just it, Donald. You're not being attacked. You're being questioned. There's a difference. Being held accountable isn't persecution. The fact that you can't tell one from the other says more than you think. Trump's face hardened, his voice rising again. You don't get to define my reality. I know when I'm being attacked, it happens all the time. The media, the politicians, the fake friends. They smile to my face and stab me in the back. You think you're any different because you've got a British accent and a talk show? Norton's tone dropped, his words deliberate now. What do you think this is, Donald? Because from where I'm standing, I see a man so used to being either worshipped or hated that he's forgotten how to just talk. You came here expecting one of two things, an adoration or ambush. And when I offered neither, you didn't know what to do. The words hung heavy in the silence that followed. For the first time all evening, Trump looked uncertain. Norton softened slightly. I don't worship you, and I don't hate you. I'm curious about you. I wanted to understand how someone with your influence and your experience sees the world. But you don't let anyone in. Because the moment you stop performing, the moment you're just you, you're vulnerable. And you can't allow that. Trump's voice was low, almost trembling. Vulnerability is weakness. In my world, weakness gets you destroyed. So no, I don't do vulnerable. I do strong. I do winning. That's how you survive. Norton's reply was gentle but firm. But you're not in your world right now. You're in mine. And here, vulnerability isn't weakness. It's what makes us human. All those millions who say they love you, do they love you, or do they love the character you play? Because I'm not sure anyone's seen the real person underneath in a very long time. Trump said nothing. His expression shifted. Anger, confusion, maybe pain, before he finally whispered, the real person doesn't matter. What matters is what you accomplish, what you build, the mark you leave. Everything else is noise. Norton shook his head sadly. That's the saddest thing you've said all night. Because buildings crumble, empires fade, and legacies get rewritten. What lasts are the connections you make, the kindness you show, the humanity you bring into the world. And from everything you've said, I'm not sure you see that at all. Trump glared at him. You live in a fantasy, Graham. A nice little world where kindness is currency. But the real world is hard, cruel, and it eats weak people alive. I've survived because I'm tougher than everyone else. That's not sad. That's victory. Norton swirled his wine. Is it? Because from where I'm sitting, you don't look victorious. You look tired, angry, like a man who's been fighting for so long he's forgotten why. That's not triumph, Donald. That's tragedy. Trump's eyes flashed. Don't psychoanalyze me. You don't know me. You don't know what it takes to be me. So keep your pity, your psychology, and your wine. I don't need any of it. Norton met his gaze. You're right. I don't know what it's like to be you. But I can see what's in front of me. And what I see is a man terrified of being seen as anything less than perfect. That fear has made it impossible for you to just talk to another human being without turning it into a fight. Trump yanked on his jacket, his movements sharp. I'm done with your little act. You wanted drama? Congratulations. You got it. But don't pretend this was about a conversation. This was about you trying to look clever at my expense. Go ahead, enjoy the moment. That's all it is, a moment. I'll still be here. Still fighting. Still winning. Norton gave a small, rueful smile. People won't forget this, Donald. Not because of what you said, but because of what it revealed. How you reacted to being treated like everyone else. Trump glared one last time, pointing at Norton. You think you won something tonight? You proved my point. People like you can't handle anyone who refuses to bow down. I never apologize. Not to you, not to anyone. Because I have nothing to apologize for. Norton's voice was calm as Trump reached the door. I never asked for an apology, Donald. Just a conversation. But I suppose that was too much. Trump paused, hand on the door, but didn't turn around. Then without a word, he walked out, leaving behind a studio so silent it buzzed. Norton turned to the camera, lifting his glass with a faint smile. Well, he said lightly, that was different. The audience erupted in uneasy applause, half admiration, half disbelief. Norton let it wash over him for a few seconds before raising his hand. I think that's enough excitement for one evening, he said with a wry grin. The interview that ended before it began. The clash nobody expected, but maybe everyone should have. He leaned back, eyes glinting with quiet thought. So what do you think? Was I right to push back? Or should I have gone easier on my guest?